Welcome to Truth Sentinel, watching over the truth in the news. Hope you're all well and you're ready to listen to today's episode. Today I'm going to be talking to Seth Davis from 2 Real News. We're going to be talking about Obama, Trump, Clinton, Saunders, politics, voting, corrupt politicians, Britain and the EU, the NSA, police, state, social media, space, planets, and quite a lot of things. Let's go over to Seth straight away. Seth, what do you want to talk about first?
Well, actually, I was thinking it would be pretty interesting to bring up right now here on Russia Today. We've got Lavrov Kerry, Syria meeting sees progress, agrees to turn truce into real ceasefire. I find it extremely interesting that the United States and Russia, two countries whose governments are not the Syrian government, are deciding whether or not there will be peace in Syria. I find that to be extremely interesting, that two countries that have nothing truly to do with Syria, that have been intervening here for the last couple of years, that would decide that now it's time that we can eventually have a truce or a ceasefire in this country. It's completely disgusting.
Yeah, and as if in Syria that they can actually command these rebel groups to have a ceasefire anyway.
Well, exactly. I mean, the United States and Russia have been funding either side of, well, as well as China, of a number of conflicts that they use what are called proxy forces, that they put money, weapons, whatever you want to say into. And it's ridiculous that we just allow this to continue to go on. And these individuals, men like John Kerry or Sergei Lavrov there, to just simply stand up and command everybody's attention, telling them how, oh, no, we're going to create peace now and we're working for a amicable solution. Well, guess what? The amicable solution has already gone out the window once you started dropping bombs on people.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't trust anything those people say anyway. I mean, John Kerry, the idea that they go into a room and start actually really talking about peace, I just don't think it's true. I'm sure they go there for their business meetings and meals, and who knows what they actually talk about. I very much doubt that any of these politicians really sit down and try and talk about world peace. That if they really were interested in world peace, they could do something about it. It's quite clear to me they're not. I mean, Obama, he talked about getting rid of nuclear weapons, and he's done nothing. In fact, I think they've increased during his presidency.
Yep. Well, I mean, pushing that same sort of an idea there, speaking of lies, I mean, look at the fact that everybody's freaking out on Trump right now, which we will fade into that topic there here in a second. But Obama there, everybody wants to try and bash on Trump of the immigration thing and all this. Obama's already so far in his tenure as president, his administration has deported 2.5 million people and has tons more raids planned before he leaves office. A ton more raids. And yet we're going to act as though, okay, let's say by the end of his presidency, 3 to 3.5 million people have been deported under him. I've literally heard people say, well, he did say that he was going to deport people with violent criminal records. Are you really going to tell me that 3 million people, every last one of them, there's no drug charges, there's none of that. It's not political speech that they're trying to deport them for. It's nothing like that. It's just violent drug offenders, because obviously the government would never lie.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's not just happening in America, but watching Fox News and just watching the presidential campaigns. It seems they're not interested in what people actually do, the actions. It's only what they say. It seems like Hillary Clinton, she can just say, I've been championing the cause of women for years. And someone will listen to that and say, oh, okay, I'll vote for her then. She cares about women. It's like, you've got to do a little bit of investigation. You can't just let her say a sentence and think, oh, that's great. That's the way that the society we seem to live in now is like, people just have to say something. It's taken at face value.
Oh, indeed. Well, I mean, Hillary is a great example there of somebody that can say everything from landing in Bosnia, I was under sniper fire, and just can change that later. And it's like, well, it's a little bit different now. And you get to watch the evolution of her lies over time. And it keeps going and going. It's like the never ending shooting star of lies. And she can't stop. But then again, none of these politicians can stop. I mean, here's some of the most ridiculous hypocrisy you can imagine here. Donald Trump blasts Tony Blair for Iraq war disaster, says Britain should stand up to U.S. presidents. I think that's a joke, considering that literally everything Trump has proposed here is unilateralism to the extreme. All of his plans, his ideas stem from this idea that a U.S. president can build a cabinet around him that can essentially do anything with no gainsaying from Congress or from any other government worldwide. And I just think it's like another little jab for Trump to essentially throw out there against Tony Blair, who, while being completely guilty on that charge, at least, it's just ridiculous. It's like the pot calling the kettle black.
It is very, very much so. I mean, Trump. I saw recently he said that the mayor of London was extremely rude, and I listened to what the mayor of London says. I'm no particular fan of the mayor of London or really anti-Trump. I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't like about Trump, but I did notice that Trump is very, very personally sensitive to any criticism. So he's described as what the London mayor said as very rude and taken it personally, but it wasn't personal at all. So I just think he sounds like he's the kind of person that will get personally offended by things and take action internationally as a result of it, which could be quite dangerous.
Well, exactly. Well, speaking on that tip there, we can go any of a number of different directions after this, but I really wanted to bring up, speaking of London's first Islamic mayor there, I thought that was very interesting how alternative media has decided to portray that, and how certain individuals and groups out there, I was thinking about not name dropping, but we may as well because we'd like to be completely straight up at this show. Most of the neoconservative, quote unquote, alternative media, be it Drudge Report, Alex Jones, Breitbart, what's another good one? Mark Dice, any of a number of guys like that have actually completely endorsed Trump 100%, despite telling you the entire time Obama was in office for the most part, and Bush as well, that the two-party system is wrong, it's ridiculous, you can't vote for the lesser of two evils and expect things to turn out all right. And now these exact same people have become majorly pro-Trump, majorly pro-mainstream Republican, have become extremely anti-Islamic or Islamophobic, whatever term you want to use to describe it there, and have just become, for the most part, very anti-immigrant, anti-Islamic, anti-gay, just anything, pro-war. It has pretty much become mainstream Republican propaganda, and I think it's insane. I mean, we'll cover here in a bit. There are other sites and other parts of the quote-unquote alternative media that are just as dirty, but they're dirty from a left-wing or Democrat perspective when it comes to biases. But it has become almost like bizarro world right now when you look at what used to be alternative media. What even 2 years, 3 years, you could turn on Alex Jones or something like that and listen to it and get at least a somewhat all right idea of what's going on in the world, and not just be completely bombasted or completely drown in the mainstream propaganda.
Yeah, it seems to me that people think they have to choose between one of two things, but they don't, Like, Trump is politically incorrect, which is great. It's refreshing. I really understand where people are coming from with that. They're sick of politicians. Trump isn't your typical politician. He's politically incorrect, and people find that very, very refreshing. And some people look at Hillary Clinton. She's a woman. Great. We want our first female president, but they don't realize you don't just have to choose what you're presented with. There may be some good characteristics of these people, but not many, I mean, Trump, politically incorrect and not your typical politician, but extremely dodgy, has got some extreme views, and I think a lot of them probably hidden and very impulsive. And
yeah, well, and they change from time to time depending on which party he's running with, who he's trying to pander to. And if you've noticed there, Scott, at least I did here, when we got the voting primaries, like the primary voting pamphlets and everything, planks, as you can call them there, the like about a paragraph to 2 paragraphs of text that they have go with each of these candidates that you get to read, that this is all the information they allow you to have on these people, other than like a tiny, like a couple facts that they have to go with it. And all you can see in it is perfect pandering. They pander to different bases. Trump panders to the religious right. Trump panders to conservatives in general. Trump panders to xenophobic people, to people that are anti-immigrant or anything like that. He panders
even possibly the Ku Klux Klan as well.
Yeah, quite literally. But Hillary and all that panders just as much. She tries to pander to the minority vote with all sorts of lies that she throws out. It's like her stance was literally like a never-ending shooting star of lies that just kept going like this fountain that just would never stop.
She is. That's why I call her Hillary Clinton, because I mean, she just literally says what she knows will get her more votes, and people need to dig a little bit deeper, just because she's a woman, so what,
It's mind-blowing. Somebody that wants to talk about how wonderful she is as far as championing world peace and women's rights and children's rights and all this type of stuff. Literally, this woman's State Department has helped fund coups that kill tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of women and children and men. So, like, what? Minorities, anything like that. So do you really think that she gives a flying damn about you?
She doesn't, yeah. I mean, when she was a lawyer, she helped exonerate a man who sexually assaulted a younger woman. And she thought it was quite funny and got him off. Those were her words.
On a technicality.
Yeah, there's a video on YouTube. You can check that out. You know, people checked out some of these things. You get an idea of her character. Same with Colonel Gaddafi. You know, when she said, you know, we came, we saw, he died. It's like, that should give you some insight into her empathy. It's like,
yeah, that cackle.
It's non-existent.
That cackle, that idea of how funny it is to watch Gaddafi get murdered.
And when she's talking about her the email scandal, you know, it's obvious she just doesn't care. She thinks she's above the law, and I hope she does get prosecuted for that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I very much so doubt it, considering it's Obama's Justice Department, quote unquote. Which, I mean, if there's a more Orwellian term in this government other than Department of Homeland Security, I can't think of it, man. The Justice Department. Do you really call the FBI, which has been nothing from its inception other than a political tool for whatever party is in power, is to call that the Justice Department is an absolute joke. I mean, just some of the other presidential what do you want to call them? The things that work under the presidency, some of these agencies and everything like that. We've got this out of Russia Today. New whistleblower Edward Snowden leaks show that the NSA participated in Guantanamo Bay interrogations. So the NSA, one thing that everybody likes to try and tie up is just being an informational branch. All it is information. Well, guess what? Information is a very ambiguous term. So while your dumbass is trying to vote for Hillary or Trump this election season, you might be getting tortured by NSA people next year about this time. So just, you know, think about that. I mean, do you think Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton or any of these people have decried what the U.S. military did when it came to rendition and torture in Bosnia? Do you think they give a damn about any of that?
No, they don't. I mean, that's why I don't vote. You know, I don't believe anything these people say, and you know, a lot of people are saying this is rigged, you know, because Hillary Clinton looks like she's going to win, despite the fact Bernie Sanders is doing pretty well. He keeps winning primaries, you know, but of course it's rigged. You know, that's why I don't even bother voting. These people are mostly all the same, and if they're not, if you get a half-decent politician, they're not going to get anywhere. That the system has made sure of that with the media. You know, in the UK, we've got this word that really annoys me, Brexit. You know, Britain leaving the EU. I can't stand the term itself, but this is all the most powerful people in the world are just releasing just short comments every day now, saying, you know, it'll be a disaster if we leave, and it's just a very easy way to make sure we never do.
It's a very Orwellian way to discourage anybody from any sort of intellectual debate on the subject by literally using even a term, Brexit, that nobody, none of the sheep, as you want to call it there, readily understands this term. It's the same reason that they use terms like insurgents to describe people that they murder overseas. It's literally just more words lawyer speak to attempt to confuse the masses. And it's insane. I mean, honestly, Scott, I would love to see the United Kingdom leave the European Union. I would love to see any of these countries leave the European Union, because the European Union has done nothing but be a giant leech upon all these countries. Not to say that any of these countries were perfect in the first place. They weren't. The European Union is every bit as bad of an idea as the United Nations. I mean, really, what has it become other than a smokescreen for massive amounts of totalitarianism and murder by any other name, of literally just justifying interventionism, justifying be it social, political, be it international, militaristic interventionism, with this smokescreen, this guise of unilateralism, or this guise of universalism and people working together for the greater good type of an idea, when indeed that's anything but what's happening. I mean, look at the European Central Bank. You want to see something evil. I mean, Christine Lagarde and these people are some of the worst human beings to ever exist. And yet somehow we're supposed to believe that they're going to be interested in what's best for the average British citizen or German citizen or Irish citizen or Spanish or French citizen. Do you really think they care about the average Greek or Italian out there?
No, of course they don't. And the fact that all these people, all the worst kind of people in the world, are saying that Britain shouldn't leave the EU, I don't even have to investigate the advantages of being in it. If all these people are urging everyone and saying it's going to be a disaster if we leave, that's enough to tell me that probably that's the best thing we could ever do is leave.
Exactly. Well, it's like the entire idea that they try and promote to people, even here in alternative media, through usually I'll be completely honest with it, either pushing a little bit right wing or pushing in a little bit more cases, a little bit left wing. But with the flare up of neo-nationalism in the United States and abroad there, they've definitely started to push a little bit more of the mainstream right wing propaganda into quote unquote alternative media sources. But the left wing type of an angle plays that exactly the same of, we need to work together with all these people and everything because it's been good. It's those damn nationalistic right wingers that don't want us to do this and everything like that. So then it gets people that have a slightly left lean politically to instantly get behind things like the European Union. I mean, Bernie Sanders has been as great an example of that as anything, of trying to co-opt people on the quote unquote alternative left into mainstream Democratic talking points. But then again, when you get right down to brass tacks, Bernie Sanders, as much as anybody, has supported U.S. imperialism. He's supported every last U.S. military appropriations bill that's come across his desk. I mean, he's supported more weapons and more money for Israel, more weapons, more money for Saudi Arabia, more weapons, more money to fund the wars in Yemen, to fund anything you can think of. I mean, the guy voted against what was later described as the main bill for the Iraq War, yet voted for all of the military appropriations bills for the Iraq War, as well as everywhere else in the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's actually part of the system also says enough to me.
Exactly.
He's been there for years. He's playing their game.
And the F-35 is about as big a waste of money as anything you've ever seen in your entire life. It's something like over $1.5 trillion they spent on this piece of crap, and Russian jets have just been absolutely flying circles around this thing. But that's him. That's him in his state of Vermont, pushing military contractors to be there over anywhere else and giving them as much of a safe haven to run and continue U.S. imperialism as anybody. So, I mean, don't just believe what the TV tries to tell you or what even your so-called unbiased alternative, quote-unquote, media wants to tell you, because I've really noticed here, Scott, the number of people that I could consider truly unbiased out there is shrinking rapidly. Though at the same time, once you know and can take everything with that grain of salt, it becomes a lot easier to weave your way through all of the BS here. It's still not exactly encouraging. I mean, just here is a great example. We've got this out of Mint Press News. WikiLeaks. Brazil's acting president, Michel Temer, is a U.S. diplomatic informant. That's a surprise. The Intercept's Glenn Greenwald has noted that Temer will, quote, faithfully serve the interests of Brazil's richest, along with the interests of Goldman Sachs and the International Monetary Fund. But really, is that any different than most presidents and prime ministers around the world? I mean, look at Obama. His last thing at that White House press correspondence dinner that he had, talking about what was it? The end of the Republic has never looked so good. And then talking about how, well, if my material goes well here tonight, I'll be able to use it, pitch it at Goldman Sachs next year. And everybody laughs and it's ha ha ha. It's so funny, but it's not, because really, where's the joke? How funny is Obama to any of the people that he killed? How funny is he to any of the family members of the people that he's killed through executive ordered drone strikes or anything like that?
That's the thing. I do actually think he may be a psychopath. Because
maybe petitions at that point are pretty guaranteed.
I'm just being generous by saying maybe.
Yeah.
No, because of the way he jokes about things like that, the smug way he jokes. That says a lot about his character. When he joked about, I've said it before, about MH370 after just returning from Malaysia and saying, giving another speech, but saying how sorry he was for the families. And then in an after dinner speech the next day, he's laughing about it and making a joke about it.
Yeah, some people couldn't find their seats.
Yeah.
I guess they can't find MH370.
And drone
Yeah, it's real
strikes,
funny.
it's all a big joke to him. He's not
Yeah,
very
it's drone strikes with the Jonas Brothers. Oh, what is it? My girls are big fans of you guys. I know you're out there somewhere. Don't get any ideas, boys. I got 2 words for you. Predator drones. Ha 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 ha. You'll never hear it coming. And all these people laugh at it. And he's like, you think I'm joking?
Yeah,
He's
no,
not joking.
that's the kind of thing a psychopath says, because if you're a normal, decent human being, there's a voice inside you that stops you from joking about stuff like that, because you know it's a serious matter. You know, he would have had to make the decision to kill some of these people, and he's making jokes about it. You can't, you know, that should say all you need to know. But I wanted to ask you about, you know, the in the States, people have to literally choose if they're a Democrat or Republican, and it seems people that's correct, right? And it seems people are quite happy to be bracketed into one of two types of thinking. I've always found that strange, like how people think that you can basically split millions and millions of people and say that they fall into two opinions.
Well, technically, you don't have to. Here in the United States, they've made it essentially a de facto two-party monopoly or a bicameral system that they can talk all this garbage about how it's actually no, there's the Republicans and the Democrats, then there's other groups out there, but they do nothing to promote libertarians, to promote Green Party people, to promote independents, to promote anybody you can think of. They don't support them. They don't promote their ticket at all. I mean, you had to find, I think it was Russia Today. So English-speaking Russian propaganda cares more about the libertarian or third-party debates that are going on right now than American news. And I think that's very telling. That's very, very telling because, well, honestly, I don't have anything for the most part against Russia Today. I think when it comes to Russian propaganda, it's definitely pretty obvious where they stand and everything like that. But when it comes to covering U.S. news and issues, I think they honestly are on point a lot of the time. It's just that kind of a standing back and looking at something from the outside sort of an issue. But the United States here, man, it's ridiculous. There's so many people I know that have gone either completely full-blown mainstream partisan or have become so disillusioned and disenfranchised that they literally don't even know what to do right now. It's to the point that I'd say about 40 to 50% of people, not at all joking, about 40 to 50% of people will not be voting, that are eligible to vote, will not be voting in this year's election. Period.
Yeah, and they very rarely talk about that as well. Like, I think it'd be great if one day there's so few people that go out to vote that it's just completely null and void.
Because they say, 10 million people voted for so-and-so, but we know that only like 2 million people in the entire nation decided to vote. So then it becomes so bald-faced of a lie that nobody can bother denying it anymore. I mean, here in the United States, one thing that really somebody brought up to me the other day that just absolutely blew it out of the water was I've seen a lot of people with the Trump signs and vote for Trump, and even people I know that still there's still a percentage of people out there that are like, oh, yep, Donald Trump, that's the way I'm voting. And then there's still a certain percentage of people that I know, actually a little bit bigger percentage, that are still on that mainstream Democrat Bernie Sanders tip of being just the greatest thing ever, socialism in America, all this good stuff. Those people are still there, but there's nobody that I know that's voting for Hillary. Even most of the people that I know that are Democrats are still voting for Bernie Sanders, yet somehow we're supposed to believe that Hillary's as the front runner in the Democratic Party and is definitely going to win. I mean, even Obama joked, if we can go back to that, at the White House press correspondence dinner about how, well, I don't know who the next president's going to be, but I have a feeling she'll do very well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's right. Not about her doing well, but about her being the next president.
Well, yeah, of course he'd know.
Yeah.
Give me a freaking break, man. They promote this all through propagandic cycles that these people have pretty much come up with, like the same thing of what they come up with PR, like media relations campaigns. That is American politics. There is no genuity in any of this anymore. It's all become completely and totally disingenuine slop that they feed to people.
Media pretty much choose who the next president is anyway. Just I think it's a very powerful force. You know, everyone knows that advertising is powerful. Basically, if the media decide they want a certain person to win, and usually the media are in cahoots with the powers that be anyway, then they're going to get what they want, basically. I think Hillary will be the next president, and Trump is perhaps a kind of false opponent for her. He's like they want Trump to be against her because they're probably going to dig up some massive scandal during the campaign, which will destroy him, basically.
Well, while all the while ignoring all the scandals to do with Clinton.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know. The irony is really strong. I'd say, honestly, I don't have to make a choice between either of these two candidates because I'm a grown-ass man and I don't have to I don't have to do anything. All these people, well, you got to choose somebody. I'm like, well, or you could, not tell me what to do like I'm a child. And we could actually make decisions based on rational information, like, educated adults there. But,
Well,
that's
people will always say, well, yeah, you have to go and vote. People died for that, and
if somebody's
I
stupid
don't
enough
think
to die for that, then you know what? That's their problem, not mine.
I think it's a false statement. I don't know
Oh,
anyone.
it is. It is.
I doubt if there's anyone who thought the second before they died thought, I'm going to do this so people can have a choice between,
Hillary
Trump.
Clinton and Donald Trump. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
it's not. That's absolute rubbish. Like, people didn't die for that. They died for things connected to it, maybe, for freedom and
Hell,
stuff
in
like that.
many cases, they died for just straight up money.
Yeah, and
Because
many
that's
people
why they
died.
keep most of us so goddamn poor, is so that we're so poor that we have to join the military just to try and have any sort of livelihood at all, and then end up getting killed for lies, for complete and total horse crap around the globe.
Unfortunately, that's true. I mean, many people have died in past wars as a result of propaganda. They believed they were doing the right thing, so you've got to have some compassion for them. But they didn't actually die to protect somebody back home. They died for the purpose of helping the agenda
Imperialism,
of the government.
yeah, to help the war machine move, like roll forward another couple inches.
Yeah, they fell for the lies basically, and I have sympathies for them. But that's the way it is.
Yeah, and it's the propaganda war. I mean, it's a thing of just division in this entire nation, and that's why getting here towards we're going to not quite wrap it up, but this is going to be a little bit of the last of more of the political type stuff. After that, we're going to get on kind of like a little space thing of what we were talking about before, because I've got astronomers discover a Neptune mass alien world with Earth-like density. We can cover that.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Should be interesting. But this out of Mint Press News, just to show the division that they've put people into such a box that nobody seems to be able to think for themselves anymore. I mean, just to kind of show the contrived dialect we've got going on. This out of Mint Press News. Police are getting shot more in 2016, and it's white men pulling the trigger. Although police unions and conservative politicians blame Black Lives Matter and Beyonce, in 71% of fatal shootings of police so far in 2016, the shooter was a white man. I like how Mint Press News here, and I definitely encourage people to look this up and then sound off to Mint Press News about this one, doesn't actually have an author on this one, so I don't have somebody to send an email to just absolutely berating the living crap out of them for shoddy journalism. They just put it out as Mint Press News desk. Let's get to the rub here, because most people, being morons there, will see this on social media just being posted and reposted, and they'll see the tagline of the first thing of police are getting shot more in 2016, and it's white men pulling the trigger, and then we'll see the little tag thing underneath it of in 71% of fatal shootings of police so far in 2016, the shooter was a white man. Well, let's talk about this for a second. Fatal shootings of police are up, quote unquote, in 2016, and the culprits are overwhelmingly white men. The facts behind these tragic killings stand in sharp contrast to the claims of some police and right-wing political pundits that have tried to attribute deaths of officers to the Black Lives Matter movement or of music of pop star Beyonce, which I don't know anybody that's not a moron that's on Fox News that says any of that crap. On 35 on-duty police officers who died this year, 17 were deliberately killed by gunfire, according to Officer Down Memorial page. 17. What's 71% of 17, Scott? Let's say like 10, 11. Just think of that, Scott. How freaking pathetic is that, though? That people anywhere here wants to talk about how, the threat is Black Lives Matter people, or the threat is black people killing cops, or the threat is actually it's white people killing the cops, or it's right-wingers, or how they try and portray white, right-wing, conservative extremists are actually more of a threat here in the United States than ISIS, because what they deign or designate as right-wing extremism here, which actually they do everything they can to promote as much stuff into it as possible, still kills something like 30-something people a year. And Islamic extremists in the United States, which they want to portray as like less of a problem than right-wing extremists, kill something like 20-something people a year. So far, 17, Scott. 17 dead. You realize cops in the United States, just the police by themselves, have probably killed, I don't want to exaggerate, let's say like 15 to 20 times that many people.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before we chatted today, Fox News seems to be doing this promotion that Yeah, the police have been really hard done by with all these sort of video recordings of them sort of beating homeless people to death and stuff.
Yeah, I know
And
that must
shoot,
be real top for the cops, or tough for the cops,
and
right?
now,
Yeah.
as a result of all these annoying people who've made videos of them killing people, the crime rate has gone up because the police are too scared to step in. That's what they've been reporting on Fox News recently. But people can just make up sentences and crime rates and stuff now. Nobody checks it anyway, so it's pretty much an open field. I think social media is controlling what people think, and I noticed today in the news as well that apparently White House visitors logs shows that the Obama administration has basically extended an open door to Google. There's been like how many visits was it? 126.
Does that surprise you when the NSA is partnered with Google, and many people have said the Google essentially after it was started became an NSA front within like a couple years after it being started, and the fact that the NSA being a agency run under the president's office there or whatever, under the executive branch, is that really so surprising that those people would meet with Obama? His fake social media accounts that he has to bring up, his literally has millions of fake followers, not real. He has millions of fake likes on YouTube videos and on articles and all this, anything with him, because they know that controlling public perception is one of the most important things out there, especially with Obama, promoting him to like mainstream Democratic white people and any minority they possibly can, when in reality, most of the people that I know, even that are Democrats, are fairly critical of Obama. Yet at the same time, looking at media out there, you'd see that there's nobody's critical of him at all. And I mean, they do their damnedest. Anybody, if you're a Democrat and you criticize Obama, or if you're Hispanic or black and you criticize Obama, they absolutely just crush you in social media with any of a number of NSA sock puppet trolls that the government literally spends millions of dollars every year funding the NSA, funding Google to put out fake accounts to be able to bolster their numbers on anything to control your perception of what you believe of them, when in reality, they have no legitimacy. Nobody cares. There's literally maybe a couple million people in this country that are even stupid enough to believe any of the crap coming out of Obama's mouth.
Yeah, I invited Obama onto Truth Sentinel, by the way. I sent a tweet to @POTUS and invited him to come on and explain why he made jokes about, what we mentioned earlier. But so far, no response. So, yeah, it must be fake. Apparently, it was 128 times Google's visited since 2009, since Barack Obama took office. And also, Facebook, Amazon, Oracle, and Verizon have visited 124 times since the same period.
Yeah, well, we call that good old corporatism here in the United States, man. It's just another day of fascism as these people continue to push onward. I mean, who do you think is going to give Obama or any of these people money after he leaves office, or after any of these other people leave office? I mean, that's what they call delayed payoffs in any of a number of cases. And I'm sure Obama and his family, any of these people, are never going to be hurting ever again monetarily. I mean, not that they already are. They're taken care of completely and live lavishly and all this stuff. And you and I literally live, in some cases, not even quite paycheck to paycheck, but paycheck to about a week after the paycheck, and
Paycheck
then scramble for the next week.
starvation to paycheck. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
it's ridiculous. Most of these people have no idea how common people are really struggling month to month. I was going to ask you about this bathroom issue, this transgender issue. How big is that over there? I thought it was a bit strange. It's a really strange thing for them to tackle this almost non-issue. It's like
it's a distraction.
The massive issues in the world. How about getting rid of nuclear weapons? No, let's tackle this transgender bathroom issue.
Well, Scott, everything we just talked about is all what they're trying to distract people from with that issue. I mean, literally, looking at the news out here, I have done a really good job when it comes to Facebook and everything of following as much local news as I possibly can here in the United States, of all the, what do you call them, little affiliates of CNN, Fox, all that type, NBC, all that type of stuff, because then it shows the overall arc of propaganda and how most of these local news places are completely and totally disingenuous. I mean, they're cookie cutter as all get out. They take most of their news, quote unquote, directly from the mainstream and do nothing but just parrot mainstream media lies. But for the most part, people on the ground here, nobody cares about the transgendered bathroom issue. In fact, most bathrooms that are public bathrooms anyways are like single stall bathrooms. So it's not really been a problem. And I think it's politicians trying to throw an issue out that's not really that big of a thing, just to try and get people as riled up as they possibly can. I mean, in reality, who cares? But also, more importantly, why should the federal government be able to tell any state government that they have to create gender neutral bathrooms on any of this? Personally, I think I don't care if your state wants to do that, fine. But I think the federal government coming in and making demands there and unilateral decisions on what bathrooms people can use and can't and all that type of stuff is definitely just one more step in the arbitrary world that we've created, where the government has complete and total control and can, down to the tiniest, most minuscule decisions, can have control over your lives and the lives of millions of other people that look just like you, that are going through exactly what you're going through.
They'll be able to dictate what toothpaste people should use in the morning soon.
No, what I mean, and we're gonna cry for it, Scott. I mean, not you and I, but the masses. The masses are going to absolutely beg for their own enslavement. They're going to literally beg to be destroyed by this system, and they are already. I mean, how many people have that cry of government, please help me, when in reality it's government that's going to kill you?
Did you hear about the allegations that Facebook have been carefully controlling the news feeds?
No,
Facebook as well?
It's not like you and I have seen that from a very personal perspective.
Well, I would never get my news. I would never get my news from one source anywhere, and I don't spend that long on Facebook anyway. So, but yeah,
I mean from us of putting out our stuff. When you look on your pages and everything like that, because I have social media pages for Two Real News. Pete had his for Truth is Stranger Than Fiction and everything, and a couple different people that I've known that have social media accounts that we've discussed this before. The information you put out, when you look, if you have a page or whatever, not just like a personal page, but an actual page set up for your business, show, whatever, like idea, anything like that. That page, you get to see how many people your post reaches, quote unquote. I'll tell you right now, I have 147 likes on Two Real News on Facebook, the Facebook page. Mm. And most of those posts reach less than 20 people. And it'll tell you that. How does that work there, Scott? Unless Facebook decides, based on other people's information, what information is pertinent to them, of what they should be seeing or whatever. So unless somebody physically comes to the Facebook page of Two Real News, they won't even see most of the stories that I put up.
No, it's true. Yeah, I mean, they control what videos go viral as well. You know, there's no
don't for a second think they don't do that with everything.
Yeah, there's no accident you get a tortoise having sex with a sandal gets 5 million views, whereas some explosive new information on a video, something political, will get about a couple of hundred.
Well, I mean, Scott, a great example of that is, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but that it's like that John Kerry thing when John Kerry was running against George W. Bush and all that type of stuff, or right afterwards, and that protester guy comes up in the middle of his little press conference there or whatever on a college campus and asks him, well, what about your relationship to George W. Bush? Weren't you both in Skull and Bones fraternity and all this stuff? Didn't you vote for the Iraq War, all this stuff? And he just kind of tugs on his ear a little bit there, and then Secret Service guys come up and start beating the crap out of this dude, manhandling him and tasing the ever-loving crap out of him. And that got no coverage in the media. That was nothing. Nobody cares, man. But something like you said, like a tortoise having sex with a sandal, freaking Caitlyn Jenner comes out with some new statement on the transgendered bathroom law, and we're supposed to anybody give two shits about any of these people, about any of the stuff that they want to throw out there. It's like, get a life. Get a freaking life, people. I mean, do you really care what Leonardo DiCaprio says about this, that, or the other? I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio says we need to save the environment. Well, I'm like, how about he tells me more about saving the environment while he's in his multi-million-dollar private jet? Wow. Let's talk about burning more fossil fuels, you dickhead. But no, of course, we gotta listen to any of these people constantly tell us how to live, what to think, all of this stuff, when in reality they're some of the least qualified people in the world to tell you how to live your life.
So you're not interested in what George Clooney's got to say about politics?
Oh my God, no, George Clooney? Oh man, I mean, what he has to say about the wars or any of this type of stuff, or how any of his movies that he's got promote all this type of stuff, that promote imperialism. I mean, the true irony that any actor out there, especially somebody that's been in mainstream propaganda movies like, Syriana or something like that there, that literally promote mainstream U.S. government opinions and biases when it comes to foreign policy, those sorts of people should never open their mouths criticizing same foreign policy, as they helped promote it in the first place in the minds of the public.
It seems like a lot of these Hollywood stars do like to have some kind of activist cause to make
but their
them
activist cause is almost always a mainstream right or left wing bunch of crap.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
I just wanted to mention before we carry on about I tweeted out there was an article on the BBC, state-owned media, and it actually admitted it was state-owned media. It was there was an article about the Royal Charter and how the government is currently drafting up the rules and regulations of the BBC. And it just makes me laugh that people still think the BBC is a non-biased form of news media.
Well, yeah, it's no coincidence that the BBC is never critical of the royal family or British foreign or domestic policy ever.
Literally never. I talked to Anthony about this because Anthony gets Australian media maybe, and they're a bit more critical. BBC, they're constantly, and most of the newspapers in the UK it's just constant stories about how beautiful the clothes are they're wearing. Yes,
like the Sun. Just look at the Sun. Any of that type of stuff. You'll see like right on the front page, it'll be a picture of like Prince Charles and just how cool and interesting of a guy he is, or just how sweet of an old lady the Queen is, or just how we really need to support David Cameron in these really hard times. And they've just been so mean to poor old David Cameron, and he's really trying his best. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, you very rarely get stories about, you never get stories about Prince Charles. How come he was best friends with Jimmy Savile?
Jimmy Savile, yeah, exactly. Why don't the BBC ever bring up, like, hey, whatever happened to that pedophile scandal? Like, whatever happened to that? Like, yeah, no.
Or the pedophile bishop that was released from prison, and Prince Charles gave him a house to sort of, keep him going for the first.
Yeah, molest kids in. Great.
Yeah, I mean, nobody talks about that. They never actually do some investigation about that.
Well, getting towards our last topic here, aliens in space. It kind of goes with the statistics thing before. If people are so full of themselves, of just nothing but hot air, that they can literally string together any sentence you can think of and put statistics and numbers that they can make up on anything and skew however they want, and you're just forced to eat it. This is out of Russia Today. The truth isn't that out there. Aliens existed in the past, according to a new study. When discussing intelligent life forms not found on Earth, questions and theories tend to focus on whether or not they currently exist. However, new research shows that it's almost impossible for humans to be the only intelligent life forms ever. In a study published late last month, empirical evidence shows the likelihood of humans being the only intelligent life form in the history of the universe as 110 billion trillion to 1. That is a 1 followed by 34 zeros. The odds of winning the Powerball jackpot are 292 million to 1, according to the Boston Globe. To give you an even better idea, the odds of being hit by pieces of satellite debris falling from space are 1 in 21 trillion. That means you're, 476 trillion times more likely to be hit by a satellite debris from space than part of the only intelligent species ever anywhere.
It's impossible to make calculations like that about anything, since we have no clue about the universe around us. I mean, a lot of this is based on the idea that the universe is infinite. In which case it would seem quite unlikely with the only life forms, but not impossible. I think relying on
a solid statement like that though does seem
not that I'm not open to other life forms being out there, but you can't really work it out mathematically.
Exactly. Well, how this number game has started as an interesting story. Researchers Adam Frank and Woodruff Sullivan from the University of Rochester and the University of Washington, respectively, took a look at the Drake equation, which was created by a scientist named Frank Drake in 1961. Francis Drake, really, in 1961 as a mathematical approach to determining if we are alone in the universe, Newsweek reported. However, Frank and Sullivan figured out that if you change the question, you can get a different answer. Instead of asking if we are the only intelligent form of life in the universe, they decided to look at whether we have been the only intelligent life in the universe. What the hell? By using data from NASA's Kepler spacecraft, the two researchers were able to create a new equation that uses the knowledge that, quote, and here's the rub, quote, roughly 1/5 of stars have planets in quote-unquote habitable zones, which, how do they even know that, where temperatures could support life as we know it, as Frank explained in one statement. That data led them to the final conclusion that the odds of Earth being the only intelligent planet are 1 in 10 billion trillion. The scientific approach to investigating other sources of life could change as a result of the findings.
It's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Again, we need to stay away from the idea that there isn't. We're not saying there's not life on there. There isn't life out there. We're saying you can't just come up with an equation or reword the grammar of a question, and then think it changes anything. You know, this is again, I think, the idea that intelligent people at universities can just come up with an idea and we should all trust it. I mean, it's just,
exactly.
It's nonsense.
Well, I mean, I've never been a big fan to just necessarily say, and sometimes people get that from things I say and read into that a little bit at their own perils there. But I've never said that there's no such thing ever. It's completely impossible for there to ever be any other sort of intelligent life in the entirety of the universe ever. However, I will say straight up that most of the stuff that they consider evidence for this is complete and total conjecture. It's just crap that they can create whenever they want to suit their needs and their political or scientific biases whenever they want to. I mean, we've got this here. Astronomers discover a Neptune mass alien world with Earth-like density. To get back on talking about red stars with planets in habitable zones like Earth, so much of this stuff they don't even know, Scott. They have no idea. They use stuff like what we were talking about last time we talked about space on this program. They use stuff like gravitational lensing and all this type of stuff to tell you where planets are, and exactly they can tell you the exact density of this planet and the exact gas composition of this planet and what the soil's made out of and all this stuff, even though it's 800,000 light years away. And you and I are just supposed to eat this crap up with a silver spoon like it's absolutely veritas, like it's already been decided. It is science. I mean, and what are you, anti-science if you don't agree with this madness?
Yeah, no, this is a real issue for me. I think, I respect science. It's important that we have people out there, but I think they should be careful in the way they say things. It should be shown that it's speculative, because I guarantee when we get the capability to visit some of these places, they'll get there and say, oh, the surface of this planet was nothing like we calculated. It's like,
well, if the planet's even there in the first place, because it's not like they can physically see any of this stuff. They're using mathematical equations of ideas of things that we believe we can observe at a distance here on Earth. So they try and use a mathematical equation to say, well, light must move exactly the same way in the rest of the universe or whatever, other than through gravitational lensing and everything. So, of course, we can just use a mathematical equation to determine what planets are here and what this and that and the other, all this type of stuff that it's insane. Just to kind of quantify this for people. An international team of astronomers reports the discovery of a Neptune-mass exoplanet with a density comparable to Earth's. According to the research, the newly detected alien world, designated EPIC, that's EPIC 212521 or 166b, is the most massive planet with a sub-Neptune radius found to date. The paper detailing the finding was published online on May 13th in a preprint version. The team, led by Hugh Osborne from the University of Warwick, UK, has analyzed the data provided by NASA's Kepler spacecraft prolonged mission, known as K2. Isn't it interesting, Scott, that everybody seems to get their information from the same NASA source? Continuing, that's kind of interesting. In order to look for possible planets orbiting the star, EPIC 212521 It is I love how they know all this stuff. It is an 8 billion year old metal poor dwarf star with a mass of slightly more than 0.7 solar masses, according to located some 380 light years away. The K2 mission identified the celestial body as a strong candidate for hosting planets.
Again, they know this is not checkable. This is, this is what the media do all the time. No one's going to check this. It's going to be about probably a few hundred years before anyone actually can check it. Talking of equations, we were discussing this in another episode. Did you know recently a plane was delayed 2 hours because a woman who was sitting next to a mathematician saw him writing equations and immediately just thought it was Arabic and called over the crew, said she was feeling sick so that she'd get a chance to speak to them privately, and said that she thought he was a terrorist and that he was writing in Arabic. And so they called him out and they had to interrogate him. And he said, I'm on the way to a maths convention. I'm just checking this equation. And that plane got delayed for 2 hours. And I think that says a lot about our society at the moment.
They keep us so dumbed down and completely and totally scientifically, mathematically, religiously, politically, economically illiterate that nobody, when it comes to the masses, when it comes to the average poor person out there, which, comprises about 99.999% of the population, most of us are supposed to be completely and totally stupid. They don't want anybody, because critically thinking people start wondering what the hell's going on. They start questioning the legitimacy of the people around them that have created an establishment that you or I essentially have to accept without ever questioning it, because it's become like a religious dogmatic system. And I mean, here's a great example of that. The idea that this woman literally thought that math equations were Arabic, and that even if somebody were writing in Arabic, Scott, that they're a terrorist. That just shows the division necessarily between our society on everything.
Another guy was thrown off a plane for speaking Arabic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think of that, Scott, that the airline actually allowed that to happen. That the pilots, that the people there actually allowed it to happen because someone spoke in Arabic. Give me a break. Yeah. I am not at all support the mainstream line on any of this type of stuff that, you have to be like a right-wing guy and opposed to immigrants and everything like that, and that pretty much there's got to be this clash of civilization between Islamic culture of like immigrants and stuff and American quote-unquote Christian culture. I think that's a completely and totally contrived idea that it is bullshit. But watching these people just become completely and totally anti-Muslim or just so afraid of anybody from around the rest of the world, because somebody speaks Arabic doesn't even mean they're Muslim, for God's sakes.
It doesn't mean an awful lot, to be honest.
And even if they're Muslim, how does that translate to them being a terrorist or a threat to you in any way? It's a freaking joke. But again, it's like you said, everybody's religiously illiterate. Everybody's politically illiterate, economically illiterate, scientifically illiterate. We're not supposed to be able to figure any of this out because they want morons, because morons will continue to go and vote for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders or Barack Obama or Tony Blair or David Cameron or Vladimir Putin or anybody like that indefinitely. They want morons. Morons don't think about any of this stuff. Morons don't question the NASA's Kepler space mission and the information they get off that they can tell you for a matter of fact exactly the composition of that star is a 8 billion year old metal poor dwarf star. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure. And the exact amount of distance between Earth and there, 380 light years. I'm glad that they know exactly to the T how much, because, I mean, they've been studying that star for 380 years already, obviously, right? Because that's how that works.
Hopefully most of our listeners aren't morons, but if you are listening and you are a moron, go and read a book or check some facts. It's not too late to change.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't think most people that are listening to this show, in fact, I'd say anybody listening to this show or anything for the most part in alternative media is a moron. Because most people that go to alternative media have already become dissatisfied with the mental gruel that the mainstream media puts out. And I'd say there's only a few cases where I could say in alternative media that literally becomes just as bad as mainstream propaganda. Because even with biases, left-wing and right-wing biases and religious biases, whatever social biases within alternative media sites, even some of the worst of them are still better than Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or BBC or Sydney Morning Herald or anything like that.
It's very true. I mean, most people listening will be already converted to questioning things. And even the people that aren't, even the people that are taking things at face value, because I see some of my friends make posts as well sometimes, and I can see they haven't really done much fact checking, so I have a bit of sympathy. I don't dislike them for that. I still. Yeah,
well, they're the people we're trying to reach.
Yeah,
they're literally they are the people that are our biggest asset, our biggest friends, anybody, our greatest allies in this time, but they also have the potential to be our greatest enemies, because it's not Barack Obama that's your greatest enemy on this, Scott. It's not David Cameron. It's not even the Queen of England. It's the people that listen to them that are your greatest enemy. It's the people that hold them in a psychotic level of reverence to the point that they're willing to listen to these sociopaths and do anything that they say, all because of a flag, all because of a national identity, all because of a religious idea. Any of it. People actually genuinely question all this type of stuff. They're no longer a threat to you. Because if they're willing to question it and they're willing to not necessarily just go out there and do something just because somebody said it, then all of a sudden we actually have a chance for a real dialogue to be created. And they don't want that. They want people that are reactionary. They want people that are going to listen to Obama or to Trump or anybody like that, regardless of what they say. They want people that are willing to put on uniforms because of a flag and go halfway across the world and blow somebody else's brains out. And then champion it and then demonize the people that they're killing and talking about how savage they are and everything, all based on propaganda, all based on the words of some people. They want a cult of personality in any of a number of sectors of society. And unfortunately, I think there are a lot of people that give it to them. But that's going to about wrap it up there, isn't it?
Thank you for joining us today, Seth.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank your audience. Once again, anytime I get to speak with you and your audience is an absolute gift there. You guys have a wonderful afternoon, and question everything. Question everything.
Absolutely. Thanks, Seth. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.